Hello and welcome to another fireside chat. You can tell it's a fireside chat because of that professional video shot in my dirty closet. So we have a panel of experts here on stage. We also have more engineers in the audience to handle hopefully anything you can throw at us. So let me set some ground rules. We're looking for interesting technical questions. We are not looking for questions that go something like, when will Android, will the platform, anything with the word will or any future thing, you can guarantee we're not going to give an interesting answer to it. We don't really talk about futures. But we'd like to talk about everything else. So let me start this out by actually introducing the panel. I'm Chet. I'm from the Android Toolkit team.
I'm Dianne Hackborn. I manage the Android framework team.
I'm Anwar Ghuloum. I'm responsible for CoreOS in Android.
I'm Steph. I'm the Director of Product Management and Developer Relations for Developer Platform.
I'm Aurash. I work on Play Store.
I'm Romain. I'm not sure what I do anymore.
Neither is anybody else.
I'm Paul Bankhead. I'm the PM for the Play Store.
I'm Tor from Android Studio.
I'm Yigit. I don't have a microphone. I work in the Toolkit team.
And so in past fireside chats, we've pre-rolled questions from Twitter, from the interwebs. And we didn't do that this year. We thought it'd be interesting to just take the live questions from the crowd. The fact that nobody is standing up at the microphones means this may be an extremely short session. I would invite any and all questions, with the caveat that I gave before, from the audience. Please come up to the microphone so that the live stream, so that the recording can actually catch what you're saying, and so that we can as well. Looks like we have our first coming up to the microphone. So just form queues, really, really long and painful and tedious queues at the microphones, and we'll take them one by one until we're done. Thanks. Yes, please.
Hi, I have a couple of questions about some of the libraries. I'd like to start off with the Android job priority queue. And so, yes, I'm wondering if with all the new ways to manage jobs in the background, if you would still suggest using that particular library, or would you suggest something else?
For people who don't know, this is like a job scheduler library. Before there was a job scheduler that I wrote in my previous job. And no, I'm just lazy to deprecate it. I work closely with the work manager team. Like, I think it's definitely the way to go. Hopefully, I will have some time and deprecate the library. You shouldn't use it anymore.
What would you suggest using if you want a job to be done in the background, but relatively quickly? Not like in the middle of the night, but within a few minutes, an hour, or something like that.
So work manager actually does try to run it faster compared to job scheduler. Like, it doesn't delegate to the job scheduler immediately. It also tries to run it itself. Yeah. So work manager will work most of the use cases. When we were designing work manager, we looked at, like, should we create something that both can run like deferred jobs and the instant jobs? The problem is you cannot really define a good API that works for both of them. And if you're trying to run them in memory instantly, there's like a much better APIs with callbacks and stuff. So we decided to keep them separate.
Okay. One last question. If anyone knows anything about Glide, there's on Glide 4, we've got Glide and Glide app. And I'm just curious if I could maybe have someone from the Glide maybe explain some of the differences with it? No?
I don't think we have people from the Glide library here, but has anybody on the panel used Glide before or have opinions? Besides, we do recommend that people use that and not write your own bitmap caching library, because why?
Yes.
There are other ones as well. Picasso is a reasonable approach, but I'm not sure what your question was. It's not answered by that vague assumption.
That's fine. If there's no one around, then
Yes.
I'll ask later. Thanks.
Yep. Also, there are two mics too. If one line gets really long, be sure to seek out the other one. Hi.
Hi. Since I cannot ask questions, I'm going to just make a comment. So I noticed that you're now opinionated, and that's excellent. You have limited your opinions, though. For example, still there is no dependency injection. There are suggestions, maybe use Dagger 2. There are suggestions about using RxJava at certain times. Sometimes there are conflicts between the suggestions. I'm not going to ask when you're going to have those incorporated into what you're doing today. I'm just suggesting that maybe you should consider that and have those also so that we don't have to go make choices.
So if I could rephrase that, I'd just say, would you consider, and then I'll put a question mark at the end, and then it'll be a valid.
Not really. I was going to ask when you are going to do that, but
Okay, I doubt we're going to answer that question. Was there anyone who wanted to address the underlying thing?
No, like dependency injection is one of the areas we are looking at expanding, but we want to be careful and slow. So we want to make sure the things we have already shipped are iterated very well. And as we get more headcount, I don't know, and then we have more people to
Subtle,
work,
very
we'll
subtle.
challenge more problems.
I should point out, too, this came up in conversations yesterday that we were having with some developers. We have opinions now, but those opinions, we hope, don't approach the area of arrogance where we say, this is absolutely the way you should do it always. It's more that we are providing opinions on reasonable ways to write applications. If you have other opinions, if you have existing architectures or ways that you need to do it instead, we absolutely think you should use those approaches. And this includes the use of other libraries and other approaches out there. We don't want to take the place of things that are there. They're working reasonably well for people already. Why would we bother doing that? Right, so yes, we do have opinions, but one of those opinions is use what is right for you in your application.
I still don't have opinions. So, so like the underlying platform is still neutral, and like what we're doing is building, on top of it, some opinion stuff to make it easier for people to use.
I'm pretty sure you have opinions, you just don't want to say them.
Yes.
Hey, my name's Shane. I'm with Jaguar Land Rover. So ever since I first heard about Kotlin last year, sounds like something really interesting. I've practiced it a little bit on my own, but the reality is I'm not going to be able to start getting deeper into it until I can get organizational buy-in to switch from Java to Kotlin. At a company like mine, which is a big automotive company, it's not a software company, getting that sort of buy-in is really difficult. So do you guys have any strategies or tips to kind of sell that up to management, and are there any resources that you guys have that we can use to kind of help present a technical and business case to use Kotlin more at work?
So first of all, Christina Lee had a couple talks last year, I think, on this exact topic, how to convince your organization to adopt Kotlin, so you should check those out.
Maybe like we have some data on like developer productivity. Developer productivity data might help.
We do know that people who are using it are very, very happy. And it could be an easier way to attract talent if that's difficult for you to find really good Android developers. It seems that a lot of pro developers really prefer to use Kotlin, and so they might be more excited to come, work for you if you can offer them Kotlin.
It's actually pretty cool to see that in LinkedIn emails from recruiters where they say, and we use Kotlin and it's a perk. I'm like, that's weird to have a language as a perk.
So just some more data. In our surveys, which have an N of like 17,000, the delta between Kotlin and any other language, it's about 20 to 25 points higher, absolute, in terms of satisfaction. And what's interesting is the more developers use Kotlin, we measure that, the higher that satisfaction gets, which the first time I saw that, I was like, is that an error?
Yeah, engineers never get happier over time.
Yeah, so it was very interesting data. The other thing that we're finding is generally the companies that are using Kotlin are finding they have kind of whole classes of errors that go away. So the quality of the code is significantly higher, and also their productivity is higher. One of the things that is useful is you end up writing a lot less code, and code you don't write doesn't have bugs in it. I think it's if I was going to phrase the question back to you, if we produced a series of concrete case studies that kind of documented that, would that be useful to you?
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm getting at.
Okay, Mr. Katsaros, right in front of you. I think we should probably do some of those. We did one, he says. Okay, what's that? Oh, he says, did you watch the keynote? It was in it.
Well, sure, but it's not readily available for me to share the keynote, right? So yeah, anything, and I've talked to several other developers here who work for like maybe financial institutions or other kind of like these non-software companies that don't get it. So any case studies or any statistics that you guys can put up, like in a one-stop shop that could be sent to a manager, that would be really useful.
Cool. How many other people in the audience, if we produced a series of case studies, like valid case studies on Kotlin, that would be useful to you? Raise your hand. Wow. Okay, let's do it. Thank you very much for this.
Thank you.
You have alerted the right people. Also, as a general rule, if you're trying to convince business executives, I find that charts and graphs help. So. Thanks. Yes.
And if you could ask questions that don't lead to more work for us, that would be great.
Hey guys, a bunch of tooling questions. I'll start with an easy one. Can we make lint incremental? In our project, for context, it takes about an hour on 32 cores, 28 gigs of RAM machines. And we shard it now.
Tor, you wrote too much lint code.
Yeah.
It's a very difficult problem. And I had this conversation with a couple of people yesterday, and unfortunately for them, what they're doing right now is they want to have every CL they upload actually also run through all the lint to make sure that you don't accidentally regress.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
My plan is to make lint 5 to 10 times slower over the next year.
Oh, thanks.
Right? And I'm doing that because I want to add more checks. I'm going to look for things more deeply, add more whole program analysis. And I think for most people, it's more important for lint to find more bugs than for it to run quickly. And so I would recommend instead running lint as a post-submit thing, right? So that it runs maybe every night, and then you find out afterwards, hey, this CL broke something. I understand that it would be nicer if it was fast, but I'm saying that the primary goal of lint is to be really comprehensive and for us to keep adding more checks, and that is the opposite of trying to make it run faster. If there was some low-hanging fruit of making it faster, I would love to do it.
Oh, there is.
Go ahead.
Well, I mean, you can mark all the inputs as like inputs, cacheable, and
I think we just did that in 3.4, but there's a lot more work to make it run, in parallel.
Yeah, that's different. All right, but that'll be like eventual integration if we run it post.
Yeah, I know that there are people on the Gradle team who actually are looking into making lint run faster. It's just that we don't see a lot of low-hanging fruit, and it's not, at least not my top priority.
I see. All right, this is the second one. How do I format? So there is Bazel, right? Let me start that way. There was BazelConf. The Bazel is open source, so it's not something that is in the future. Bazel is here, but what Android teams think about it?
Every time you add another language or build system or IDE, it's a lot more work, right? So when we started working on Android Studio, we stopped working on Eclipse because trying to maintain sort of, oh, you want Eclipse? We'll have this plugin for you. Oh, you want IntelliJ? Here's this other plugin. There's a lot to be gained when you focus on making one thing work really well. And so right now we are focusing on making Gradle work as well as we can make it.
Fair enough. Yeah.
Right. Thanks. Yes.
Yeah, hi. So back in the day, like back in 2011, we had Android App Inventor. Actually, I used to use it to teach it to kids in the summer camps, and it was like a good no-code tool. But then it got deprecated, and I was just curious, do you guys have any no-code framework which we can use right now?
I think that what happened was that it's been taken over by, I want to say MIT. I'm not sure exactly which university.
It did get absorbed in some of the project, yeah.
Yeah, I think they're still developing it. One of my daughters is using it in college.
Oh, okay. Okay, so but there were not a lot of updates coming in, so yeah.
Yeah, we're not working on it.
Okay. Okay.
I think that it was originally maybe developed together, academia and Google. We're not working on that right now.
But
Would you like us to work on it?
Yeah, something.
What in particular is that you like about it? Is it the no source file, like just the actual visual programming, or is it the component-based development of sort of taking ready-made, not just widgets, but things like accelerometers and hooking those up? Like, what specifically is it that you want?
So when I was using it for teaching it to kids, right? In the 3rd or the 4th grade, it's really exciting for them to just develop an app. And at that time, it was intuitive for me as well. So I was just thinking, if something is there, since we are already working on so many tools, if there's just one more no-code tool, it will help us out. And the kids can start developing apps, right?
All right, well, thank you for the request. We'll add it to our to-do list. It's pretty long at this point.
And just one more question. So any recommended tool for using CI/CD in Android? There is no, we can use Jenkins and that's fine. But do you guys recommend any tool to be used for CI/CD?
Any of the experts want to say anything about this? I don't think we picked one that we recommend. Oh, Stefan.
So we have a talk later today on Project Nitrogen, which is a pretty interesting project where we want to give you something that you can scale your testing. And so you might want to check that session out.
Okay, okay. Okay, thanks.
Thanks. Yes.
Hi. Does the Android team view Flutter as a growing core that developers in this room should focus on and on learning, or should we expend those learning resources on deeper Android SDK knowledge?
Well, so we do a lot of things at Google. Flutter is one of them.
Sure.
And Android, as always, is all about choice. I personally really like Flutter. There's a lot of very interesting things. But we just made Kotlin an official language on Android. We're not going to make Dart an official language on Android. And Flutter has qualities that are very interesting to some types of applications out there. If you're already cross-platform, you should definitely look into it. It's worth a look, but it's not something we are adopting ourselves on the Android team.
All right, thank you.
Thanks. Yes.
Hello, my name is Valmir from Brazil. Thanks for any work that you have done for the Android community. I think everyone is grateful here. I have two questions. One is regarding Instant Run. I was talking to some friends a few weeks ago, and all of them disable Instant Run to work on a daily basis. And if you look for Instant Run on Google, every time the 3 or 4th suggestion is how can I disable Instant Run to program? What's the current scenario of Instant Run? Are you guys putting some effort, still putting some effort on it? It's kind of not working as could be, but how is the current scenario?
Yeah, so we described in the keynote yesterday, I think, that we're working on Project Marble, which is really about reworking things that are kind of broken and focusing on product excellence, right? Fixing bugs, UI freezes, leaks, those kinds of things. And Instant Run is one of those things where we're working pretty deeply on. I think did we talk about the EA? Yes, we did. So we're already working with a few, early access users to test our new implementation, which is quite different from the old one. And we're pretty optimistic about it. But we want to make sure that we really test it well before we say, hey, try it now. Right?
Okay.
It's going to be great.
We are actively recruiting for an EAP right now for what we're doing with Instant Run. So if you are interested, you can look for me or John Sao in the Android Studio booth.
Awesome, thank you. The second question is quickly, what do you guys think, how do you folks think about remote development? For example, if you don't have this kind of huge machine with 16 gigabytes of RAM, how it's possible for me to have this kind of fast deployment on Android? I saw some libraries like Mainframer that can also deploy an application and come back. If you have good connection, doesn't matter the hardware that you have. What do you guys think about this kind of remote deployment and testing with remote ADB? There's a lot of stuff going on about this on community. What do you guys think about it? As Google is this kind of cloud-first, data-first company, it would be cool to have something doesn't matter.
Are you talking about running tests in the cloud, or are you talking about actual live debugging?
I run an app. It reads on a very powerful machine on the cloud and come back with the APK that I run on my phone.
But I mean, machine. Are you talking about the device?
Yeah, your computer.
Okay, so you want studio. So you
remote
basically want a X terminal that's talking to it,
Yeah. Maybe you can code on your machine, and then if you need to a fast deployment, you can hit on the cloud or deployment.
I mean, basically, X hosting should already work, right? If you have Linux, this should be possible too already.
Okay.
But building this in general is a little harder.
Yeah, it's a great question. It's one we talk about. We've talked about it every year for the last 3 years. It's I think one of the advantages is it would really help when you don't have a really beefy machine.
Yeah.
And that is a lot of users. For those of you who opt in, we do watch the stats of how much RAM people have, how much disk size, and it is, you can expect, it varies a lot by geo. Only if people have opted in do we look at those stats. And so we worry a lot about places where people don't on average have as larger machines. It's a great question.
Yes.
The challenge is the cost of doing that and doing that well is exceptionally high. And probably a lot of you in the audience are familiar with many different efforts. So it's a long-running debate we have is should we do this or should we, because doing that would postpone a lot of other efforts. So we're still having that debate, and it'd be great to have you weigh in. It's just really a trade-off decision.
Yeah, I was thinking because most of the people that I talk about why they don't code for Android is just because they don't have a proper powerful machine. So, for example, if you have this kind of remote deployment that you can run the application, it would be good for example, Google for Education that have a lot of Chromebooks that could have this kind of local Android Studio with a very short hardware machine, but with powerful cloud machine that can build apps or something. Right. Okay, thank you so much.
Thanks. Hi.
Hi. Quick question about after you you acquired Crashlytics into Firebase. like some functionalities are in the Firebase side is trying to like catch up on the Crashlytics side, and they're trying to bring themselves up to like feature parity. But I can no longer search the crashes on Crashlytics or Firebase. Like, is that deliberate?
Is there anybody from Firebase or Crashlytics around?
Or is that not part of the tool's offering anymore?
Let me point out that Google's a big company, and we're not representative of all the stuff that we're working on right now. I know some of the people on the team, and I also know that they're not in the room, so I don't think we can actually answer that question right now.
Okay.
If you follow up afterwards, we can get back to you with an answer.
Cool.
Thanks. Hi.
Hi, I'm Jason. I work at Hinge, and we've been 100% Kotlin for about 2 years now, and it's been dope and amazing. And
How did you convince your executive management to do that?
actually, Christina Lee and Ty Smith, their talks from DroidCon 2.5 years ago were like the convincing factors. So that was great and wonderful, amazing. I have been working really, really hard at making the app as good as I can with respect to CI and test coverage and unit tests. And something that's been plaguing me for a very long time is having code coverage and getting the reporters to work correctly with respect to Kotlin and the 40 Gradle modules that I have to maintain. When I run code coverage in Android Studio by the default Android Studio code coverage tool, it works great and amazing. And then when I switch it to JCoco, it says there's no coverage found. And essentially, I have this very strange copy-pasted from Stack Overflow script for JCoco version 07927 blah that happens to work and does happen to do correct reporting, but I feel like it's not documented anywhere, and essentially I'm not sure where to go, or like if I upgraded JCoco or Kotlin, at some point I'm going to break this. And I do love Kotlin, and I do love Android Studio in general. I just want to make this better.
Well, it sounds like we just need to fix the JCoco integration with our Kotlin Gradle plugin.
Or integrate that Stack Overflow post into the IDE.
Yeah. I'll make sure to talk to the Gradle team and see what we can do.
Can we follow up afterwards to get the bug report from you? I'm aware that earlier on there were some code coverage issues with Kotlin, but we fixed a bunch of those recently, but apparently not all of them.
Yeah, some of them have definitely been fixed. There was one really weird bug where I could only run unit tests on a single file at a time. I couldn't run it on an entire module.
If we could follow up with you afterwards and we can get the details. Thanks. Hi.
Hi, what is the reason behind the JVM-based instrumentation tests in RoboElectric 4.0?
Hi, JVM instrumentation tests.
Yeah, so now you can run Android tests instead of on device. You can run it on JVM instead with RoboElectric 4.0.
Yeah, that's right. So there's, in Android, there's two kinds of tests. There's local JVM tests. They're in your test folder, and then instrumentation tests, which are in your Android test folder. You can use like Mockable Jar, or you can use RoboElectric in those local tests. What we're doing with Android X Test is bringing a unified testing API into Android X Test, because each mode of testing has different APIs and styles. It's very confusing for developers. So in terms of RoboElectric, it just basically implements the same APIs that instrumentation implements. So you can write the same tests in both local unit tests and instrumentation.
So are you merging the Android test folder and the normal unit test folder in Android Studio?
And well, I don't think there's actually been any decision yet on that. But in terms of right now, you can use the same APIs in both. We've got another talk today on Project Nitrogen. So if you think about the tests of what you run, Project Nitrogen sort of is the how and the where. And so I'd encourage you to check that talk out today. It's at like 4:45, I believe.
Okay, and will you provide code coverage for both unit tests and functional tests?
We would hope so, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks. Hi.
Hi, I'm Colin Lee. I'm from Minneapolis, Mozilla. I have a question. Over the past 8 years or so of writing apps, like the one API that's been the most bizarre hacks for something that's really basic is working with the soft keyboard. And things like just opening the keyboard, listening to the state, saying you want to focus a particular element reliably, and shifting the window and view so that it focuses the elements you want to write into or alter. All those things, they break on certain layouts. Are we considering a rewrite of how keyboards functions?
Sort of. Yeah. Yes, we are.
Do you want to answer it?
Many people want to answer this question.
Dianne, you want to go first?
I'll let others go if you have something.
Many people don't want to answer this question.
It's something we're looking into in future releases.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, we're well aware of the kind of shortcomings that we've got there. We definitely want to enable some richer integration with like letting apps feel like the keyboard is a part of your app experience more so than like the bolt-on. So we're actively looking at it.
Yeah, it's pretty constant feedback over the last few years that
Everybody's being very polite about these APIs.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, thanks. Hi.
Hi, I'm Mike. So I love Android Studio and I love IntelliJ. I was lucky enough to actually start working on IntelliJ as my first IDE rather than having to use Eclipse. But unfortunately, sometimes it's a little too heavy. You know, if we have emulators up, we have Studio, we have the browser for doing something like Stetho. 16 gigs is now something that is not even optimal to do Android development with. And my manager looks at me like I'm crazy when I tell him that a 16 gig laptop that is basically top of the line isn't something that I want to be coding on a daily basis. So I know we can use Vim. I can't use Vim, maybe other people can use Vim. We have Sublime. Sublime also doesn't really have some of the nice autocomplete, or doesn't have some of the code navigation that I really got used to using IntelliJ all these years. So I kind of want to ask, has there ever been something like an Android Studio Lite or some kind of plugins that anyone has thought about doing? Because I used to use Visual Studio for everything, and then VS Code came out, and you can now do a lot of that same development just on smaller machines. And I would love to just bring my Pixelbook here and still be able to do development for work and be able to do it in non-studio. So I kind of want to throw it up if has there ever been any thought about doing tooling that would work in things other than just the IntelliJ platform?
Does that help?
I mean, that is not,
Perfect.
we're not
Thank you.
starting there. I mean, it's very tempting to start with an editor and try to build it up, but there's so much magic in IntelliJ, it'd be very hard to replicate. What we're doing with Project Marble is to try to look at optimizing a lot of inefficiencies, right? A lot of people tell me that they have a 16 gig machine and Studio runs slowly on it, but they weren't aware, and this is not their fault, by the way, but they weren't aware that Studio is capped to use at most 1.2 gigs out of those 16 gigs because there's a hard setting of max heap that Studio gets. And the only way to make it use more of that is to actually, go and edit the VM config file.
I think if we don't, sorry to interrupt, but I think if we don't edit it, we're unable to use Android Studio.
Yeah.
At least that's my issue with it. I don't want to edit it and give it 4 or 8 gigs, but it's not a usable experience. We get pop-ups saying that we have to give it more RAM.
Yeah, so one of the things we want to do is to try to auto-configure that so you don't have to do it. We also want to try to reduce the obvious inefficiencies in some of the things we're doing. We're also looking at disabling some plugins sort of on demand because some of them are pretty resource intensive that maybe you aren't using. So I think our first plan is to spend the next few releases just really trying to optimize things to work better as opposed to starting a brand new tool.
Yep. Anything else? Good? All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hi.
Hi, I'm Swapnil from CBS Interactive. So I have a question regarding the data binding library. So I kind of have mixed opinion regarding using the data binding library. So I just want to ask, technically, is it efficient or anything than, let's say, using Kotlin X IDs? Or does data binding has efficient benefits or something? Personally, I don't like putting the code inside XML. I just prefer.
Then don't put code inside XML. I mean, that's
with the data binding,
data binding doesn't require you to put code XML. Actually, Jose and I gave a talk in DroidCon 2 weeks ago. You can check that one out. There is a misconception that just because you can do it, you should do it. You don't put all of your code into your activity either, right? You divide your app. So same things are valid in data mining. Just because you can write like complex expression doesn't mean you should write. In terms of efficiency, yes, actually data mining like tries to generate more efficient code than you would normally write. But is it like a decision point? Definitely not. Like, it's not going to make a big change. You probably have like a bigger fish to fry. But like I personally like it. I worked on it and I used to use it in other platforms before. I do like the declarative nature of data binding that makes it like you just say, put this thing here and it eventually shows up there. But it's kind of a personal choice. Like we have these things, they are not rules, they are opinions, and we don't always share the same opinion either. If you like it, use it. It's great, and if you don't like it, that's like you don't have to use anything.
Okay, so bottom line, it's like just personal opinion, not that really helps with the efficiency or anything.
Yeah, I mean, like it is efficient, but it's not going to make a big change for your application. That's the problem there. But yes, like we try to generate better code than that you would normally bother with writing. But is it that important? Like I don't think so.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Thanks. Hi.
Bunch of more tooling questions. Let's start with an easy one. Can we push for JUnit 5 support in Android Gradle plugin? Because right now you have to use third-party plugin written by some guy, which every Android Gradle plugin release obviously breaks and all of that. And like Gradle 4.6 made the JUnit 5 work out of the box and all that. Can we do it?
That sounds like a very reasonable request. Yeah.
Thanks. All right. Now to the harder ones.
It's warming me up.
Yeah, there was a question about instant run, right? Can we please make it a command line tool rather than an integration into Android Studio? Because right now, 3 major build systems like Bazel, Buck, Gradle, like Bazel and Buck has their own ways of incrementally installing APK. Gradle hasn't one, Android Studio has one, and that's like mismatch.
Yeah, so in the new implementation, we're not hooking into the Gradle bytecode transformation pipeline.
Okay.
It's done at runtime, a bit like the profiler does instrumentation, so it should be easier. But again, it's not something we're deliberately designing for. But we're trying to not to do that.
All right. Harder one now. So let me put it that way. Who knows how to contribute to AOSP? Well, who is not Googler? Those people. Cool. So
can I quit just to answer the question?
Yeah. So as you can figure, like particularly with Android KTX project, right? Like there was an announcement that it was moved from GitHub to AOSP, and for some reason people were happy, but that's not true. Like it's really hard to contribute to AOSP. It's really hard to pull it.
I'm not happy. I like GitHub.
Yeah, yeah. And a lot of projects from Google are already on GitHub. Can we, as a community, ask for this push for like some of the libraries, maybe?
Please do.
I'm asking.
Actually, like on the Android X migration, when we were internally discussing moving to ASP instead of like internally developing and syncing, I was a big proponent, and I said, look, if you put this on ASP, like plenty of people will contribute. No one sends a CL. So like we understand there's still a barrier, but we simplified it significantly. Yeah, we understand there's like Gerrit, repo, like tools people are not very familiar with. But we also have an internal integration, like with the next version of Android. Like we need to stay in the same build tree to make this easy. Oh, there you go. That guy can answer.
Hi, Alan Weber at TLM for Android X. We checked out the Android X repo from AOSP onto the 2 machines that we have over at the Android X booth in about 5 minutes, and we're up and running to upload commits.
So if you want to contribute, just go into the next room and write some code.
Yeah.
Yep.
Cool. Sounds scalable.
So there's
like it is. I mean.
There's a difference too, like when you say AOSP, when we think of AOSP contributions in the platform, yes, that is a big deal, and we don't expect that a lot of people are going to absorb the entire platform and be able to contribute, especially since we don't release the source code until the release is out. But the smaller libraries like Android X, like we're actually developing in AOSP, we would like contributions, and we hope that that's low weight enough for people
We would
to
love to
actually
contribute.
Please do.
Yeah.
So,
please put it
so
together.
get together with Alan and sort of figure out what the disconnects are on being able to do that, because the intention was to make it much more possible. possible.
Yes, some of the projects were able to succeed at that, like Dagger, for example. And you have tooling to sync it back to your monorepos. I know that, like, I think IOSP is like not the part of monorepo at Google, but still is a monorepo, so you should be able to sync it back.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
So we could make contributing to AOSP easier. We could also consider GitHub. I'm curious what you all would like to see us do. How many people would be interested in seeing us put Android X on GitHub? Wow. Okay, how many would like to see us just make AOSP easier?
You can't make Garrett easier.
Okay, thank you. That was very helpful.
Thanks.
Thanks. Hi.
Hi, so I work at a company that does smart connected devices, which means that I have had the joy of interacting with the Bluetooth API. I also implemented barcode scanning recently in the app, which means I had the joy of interacting with the camera API.
Have you considered a different job?
Only every day.
He's regretting his life choices.
So many of them. So my question is, with the GSIs, there was this kind of notion of pulling things away from the OEMs and putting them in Google controllable land. And you know, there's lore from many years ago of like, you know, you only run Bluetooth operations on Samsung phones on the main thread. If you don't, Samsung phones just, you know, poop on you. Or like, modern phones don't support Camera 2 APIs, even though they were, you know, made this side of the century. Is there an effort, or can there be an effort to move all of this junk that happens on the cameras and Bluetooth into Google controllable land so that it's not OEM dependent?
So this might be a little forward-looking, but there's an effort around camera specifically to try to have sort of a higher-level API that ships as part of the X libraries that sort of smooths those differences between OEMs.
What about Bluetooth? Because that's like almost even worse.
Yeah, there's probably a need there. In fact, we suggest a lot of, if you can use it, because it is a limited API, that you use the nearby APIs, because they kind of hide a lot of the messiness of the underlying implementation, and we actually check the quality of those APIs on different devices. If not, we can certainly take it back to the Bluetooth team and share your pain, so let us know.
But like, that's not, the nearby APIs don't give you the ability to like send Bluetooth packets and like actually communicate with a smart lock that I'm trying to unlock like on someone's door, right? Like that's not what those APIs are meant for. But like, I don't want to have to remember that, oh, if I'm on a Samsung phone, I have to switch to the main thread. All other, you know, devices, I don't have to switch to the main thread, except for LG, which just like doesn't work. You know, all of this nonsense. Why, you know, this should be something that Google controls. Why is it something that the OEMs get to decide on my life?
Bluetooth. I'm going to take this one. I'm not responsible for Bluetooth, but it is pretty complicated, right? Like there's the Bluetooth standard isn't totally complete or unambiguous about how certain devices should behave. So you'll see a lot of variability between OEM devices. Now, some of the stuff you're describing seems kind of pointless to have. So I can take it back to the Bluetooth team and talk to them about it. One of the things we've been doing over the last couple of years is really trying to improve Bluetooth implementation across the ecosystem, including like a rewrite of the Bluetooth stack, working with our SoC vendors and stuff like that. All those platitudes aside, it sounds like there is this gap on the developer side that we need to address, and I'm happy to take it back to the team. I don't know of anything that they're doing specifically to address this like I do on the camera side, but...
Speaking of platitude, Bluetooth has gotten way better since Android 7 and up, so thank you guys for that.
Cool. So it's getting better at least. Yeah, if you can follow up afterwards with more details, that'd be awesome. We are running out of time. I'm sorry for all the people that have been standing there for a while. If you can ask really quick questions, we'll try to get to as many as we can before this shut.
Chet, can I ask one question too?
Yes, please.
You can take them first.
I can what?
They can go first. That's okay.
Your turn.
Thank you for this great event and all the support on the various forums. I'm showing my gratitude first because I have a complaint/request for the data binding. So most of the time on Android Studio, it works fine, but sometimes, even though I refactor, let's say, variable name, it doesn't pick up in XML file.
Yeah, so we are specifically trying to address this with Project Marble.
Okay. Second thing, like the classes it generate are in the one package. So what happens is like all the internal classes, let's say view model or inside support classes, I have to make them public because they are not accessible into the XML file or in the data binding generated classes.
No, actually, you can, when you have a layout file, you can give it a class name. So if you specify the class name, we will generate the layout file in, like the binding will be have that class name with the package you provided.
But the data binding generated class, they are not package specific. They are
No,
like at one place.
No, they are. If you specify the package name, that they will be there.
Interesting. I will try that.
Maybe.
And yeah.
But like, find me afterwards if maybe
Sure.
if I didn't get the question.
And third thing, like if some error happens, it throws like 200 plus error, which is hard to. Sometimes it takes some time to.
Can we make that less than 200 errors?
That's a JavaC problem we haven't foreseen, and we cannot work around without breaking our API. I wish I knew this like 4 years ago. We would design something differently. We might, like I'm getting this so many times that we might actually just break some of the API to work around that problem. Like it's not easy. Trust me.
And last thing.
We're over time already. Is it really quick?
Fine. In XML, can we provide some convenience methods so that we don't have to put the business logic inside the XML? Let's say if null, then visible, not visible. If we can pre-import some static function and we can really use them, like really small set of functions.
Yeah, let's talk offline and then.
Perfect.
Okay, Steph, did you have something quick?
Oh, yeah, one question that came out of the community in advance of this summit was people had questions about how we think about the store and apps on the store. We talked about it in the keynote. People were just wondering, like, what's the reasoning for when we take apps down? How can I reach out if there's been a mistake? So I actually invited some friends of mine to come, like Paul at Bankhead. I was wondering if any people did have that question, if you'd like to hear Paul talk about it, because they have certainly thought about it. And yes, would people like to hear Paul answer that question? He's great, by the way. Okay.
No pressure.
No pressure. So sometimes we take apps down from the store. User safety is really, really important, and we're a marketplace. We need all of you to create awesome apps and games, and we need users to come, and if we don't have either side of the ecosystem, we don't have a store, we don't have Android. So we really appreciate everything that all of you do to create good apps and games. There are a handful of bad actors in the world. Some of them are really bad, and some of them are accidentally doing bad things, and we have a set of policies in place to protect our users, and some of these policies also protect good developers from having their stuff inappropriately used. So we try really hard to not have any false positives and to not make any mistakes in our enforcement. If we do make a mistake, you can appeal. We look at every appeal and try to do so within a day or two. And I think you can expect over the next quarters, we've announced that we are looking at further improving the safety and privacy on Android and Play. And we are going to do our best to keep all of you in business and keep our users safe.
Thanks. Let me check real quick with the crew. We're running into lunchtime right now. Is it possible to run over and take a couple more questions, or do we need to
How
shut
about
down?
if we say 5 more minutes?
5 more minutes.
Okay.
Thank you. Really quick. Yes, please.
Okay. I've been doing Android TV for 3 months. Due to design constraints, I could not use leanback. So I had to do the fields manually. I was hoping for better ways to override Focus Finder. Sometimes when I refresh things, there's nothing to focus on anymore, or the view had gone away. And sorry for suggesting more work.
Adam, have any take on this?
Oh, geez. Go ahead and find us in the general question area afterwards. I want to know some more about this.
Okay. Thanks. Yes.
Hi, thanks for the event. I have 2 questions. First of them is more generic one. So I hear beacon library is being deprecated. So what is the future of location detection based on beacons?
That's a good question. I mean, you can still do BLE scans and use those scans for location, beacon-based location, using Nearby. What we deprecated was the Nearby notifications stuff, which was basically, the issue was, the potential for spam or user abuse through people just posting, inappropriate URLs or whatever on these beacons, and then people getting notifications about them constantly. So you should still be able to use BLE scanning to do beacon-based location applications, and we do that. I mean, I don't think we as a team do it directly, but my team supports that kind of work in other apps that are doing this kind of thing.
Okay, thank you. So the second question is more specific to data mining. So Yeah, right.
Should there a fireside chat on data mining?
Apparently, I think we're doing it now.
So newer APIs. So writing binding adapters in Java requires static modifier, and writing them in Kotlin isn't. So it's not supposed to, but it didn't work for me unless I added JVM static annotation. But in the documentation, it doesn't say that I'm required to do so. So it doesn't work.
Yeah, maybe we should fix the documentation. It's like if you write it as an extension function on the view, Kotlin ends up generating a static function, then data mining picks it up automatically. Like it works by mistake, it wasn't intended to. But like it's really nice because your binding adapters are actually extension functions on the actual view, like a much more convenient way to declare them. But I guess we need to fix the documentation. It's not very, like you still need them to be static, or like you can do it dynamic, but it goes through data binding component, which I think I'm gonna deprecate to fix that Java C problem. So.
Yeah, so if you copy from the documentation, it just doesn't work. So
Okay.
letting you know. Thank you.
I will get that fixed. Thanks.
Thank you. 2 minutes left.
Hi, a quick question. When will, is there any plan that Camera 2 API will be in the Jetpack with like better interface? And when will the Camera API 1 is actually be gone? It's been deprecated for a while.
I can't speak to when it'll actually be gone, hopefully soon. I think the reason we kept it around was to better support low-end devices that were on chipsets that couldn't support Camera 2 API. But the plan is to eventually have it be gone. I can't really speak to details on the plans for including the new camera APIs in the Jetpack because it's sort of work in progress and stuff that we're looking at. But we are keenly interested in because we know that a lot of apps, they want to get sort of the best picture out of the camera, and they're having to resort to things like screen scraping and stuff like that.
Is that writing like too much code on our side?
Yeah. So it's a high priority for us. We're aware of it. Just stay tuned. Hopefully, next developer summit we'll have something better to say about it.
Great. Thank you.
Does that mean in 3 years? All right. Thanks. Yes.
3 years. I thought it was 4.
I was late, so hopefully this wasn't already asked.
Oh, let me just summarize what we've been talking about for the last.
All right. Data binding, right? So Play Services and Firebase as well to an extent, is this sort of huge monolithic black box that crashes a lot and has no bug reporter. Is there anything on your radar to improve that sort of feedback loop? It's really frustrating whenever you have an issue and it's kind of, we know people in the community who work directly on like Android X or frameworks, but as far as like Play Services or Firebase, it's just sort of, well, you can kind of dump it into the ether.
I'm going to stop you there because we're about to run out of time. Is there anybody that can handle that question on Play Services crashing?
I mean, I work with them a lot, and some of my colleagues here do too as well. They've been working really hard to reduce the number of crashes in Google Play Services. They've actually made a lot of progress, but it is kind of a volume game in a sense, right? Like they look at kind of the crashes that are most frequent and focus on those. If you're looking at crashes that are induced by certain uses of the Google Play SDK, I think that would be, we could talk offline afterwards if you want, and I can get you connected with the right people.
Yeah, I think the main concern is it's not clear where to file bug reports.
So Zach, it sounds like you're basically asking, I'd like a good way to file bug reports for Play Services and Firebase?
Yep.
Okay, yeah, we can mention it. Thank you.
Thank you. Last question.
I had 2 questions, but I'll ask just one.
Okay.
Firstly, I would like to say that I'm new to Android, and it's really good that we have the Google samples and in every possible combination with RxJava, whether live data. So that's really good. But I was recently working on a code lab for dynamic feature, and I did everything right, and still nothing was working because there was some issue with the flavors in our app. So can we have more real-world app samples as well to reflect such things?
Real-world samples, it's a good request. There are many, many DevRel people here who work on stuff, so that's certainly good feedback for that team. It'd be good to get the details on the specific problem that you had, and that would be a good use case for us to look at, if you could follow up with us. Thank you. Thanks, everybody, for coming. Thanks to the panel, and thanks for the people in the audience as well.